expecting as constituents. So I think ethics is something I would like for us to discuss a little more, because I believe we have to address that directly and not avoid the current status of things.
Chavis?
Frankly, I'm a little bit surprised in the panel, to this panel and the panel preceding us, that you didn't ask what our priority will be. What is going to be our thing that we take on and run with. I'm going to be a prolific legislator, and in Ward 7, we unfortunately have the least active member of the council. We've suffered as a result. I'm going to put forth many bills when I'm elected. And one bill that I'm going to put forth right away is a bill that I hope will increase parental involvement in their child's education. And this bill will be a parent union law. I want to get our parents together. I want our parents to get involved in their child's education, because if you get people reading and writing and able to understand basic skills, then they can go get jobs. They can become successful. So I'm going to try to make change. I will make change by putting forth major legislation, not co-sponsoring, but writing myself and sponsoring. That's what I'm going to do if I'm elected.
Ms. Douglas?
Well, I was wondering, hope that you all would ask the question, why does the budget keep changing? Why do you keep asking, finding money that you lost money and then come back? Because the budget has a lot of effect on the development of our wards, and also the serving our residents of Ward 7 in our nation capital, because our residents look for those services, and when they look to the service, and a lot of folks have lost jobs, not only teachers, but other folks as well have lost jobs across the city because the budget has not been accurate. So we need to be accountable, let city council be accountable. Why the budget keep on being up and down and not adequate? So I would like to see that, ask those questions, and why so many schools are being closed. What's going to happen to those schools and those children once those schools are closed across the board? Ward 7, Ward 8, which they have named as poor and bad schools. Our kids are not poor. We're not poor, no one in the nation capital at all. I think we need to find a remedy to save our schools and not sell our schools off for other developments to obtain. And this is what's happening. And I would like to ask why have you all not asked those questions, and why it's in the newspaper saying that the mayor said shutting down all the schools. So, and then turn around and say that he's not. Then why is he not being truthful and honest? And let's go back to ethics again. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson?
One of the things that wasn't really touched on much was education in Ward 7. We know that education is the way out of poverty. It is the way out of many of the situations that we find in Ward 7. We need more services in Ward 7, period. We need schools not to close. We need more money in our budget so that our schools will have the resources that they need. They need modernization. We also need mental health services in our ward. We only have one mental health facility in Ward 7, and oftentimes we have residents who do not get the services that they need, and therefore just continues to widen the gap. We need to provide support for all of our residents so that they can get a sound footing, so that they will be able to accomplish their goals, and we'll be able to increase our tax base, increase and reduce our literacy rate, and also reduce our jobless rate. Thank you.
Okay, we stand reprimanded, I guess. Those are all valid points. Let me give you another kind of question that I haven't asked before tonight. This is an optional question. You don't have to answer it. What would you like to ask any one of your co-candidates running for this office?
Well, I'd like to ask Mr. Brown why he would support let's say an addendum to the ethics legislation, or not even an addendum to the ethics legislation, but a referendum that would ban corporate contributions when his campaign is pretty much funded by those types of contributions. I think that's an interesting stance, somebody who's received such money from the corporate world.
Mr. Brown, you want to respond to that?
I think I stated it earlier, but I will address it again to Mr. Chavis' question. The bottom line is, I am a part of this democratic process, and as it stands currently, I'm within the guidelines of the law to obtain the seat of Ward 7 City Council member. But I do believe that that the law should be adjusted, and I believe the legislation, ultimately the initiative and the legislation that I hope to support and actually become a champion and a model for is when a qualified candidate has to fight on the financial side just to get a real opportunity to serve his residents. That's a problem with our broken system. So I am saying I'm going to change that, and I'm not going to change my position once I'm the Ward 7 council member. I'm involved in it now, and I have to do what's within the law and guidelines now in order to win this seat, but I'm certainly making it clear that I don't think it has to remain, and that's one of the leadership qualities that I mentioned earlier.
If I were, are you going in
Go
a
ahead.
particular order? Yeah. Unfortunately, the person who I'd like to ask questions of is not here. And that is why she's running for re-election with such a dismal record after 5 years. And why she would choose to tout accomplishments that were well within the pipeline prior to her having really any engagement and involvement. And how she can stand and tout accomplishments when things are in such abysmal shape. And I just want to know if we're looking at the same statistics, if we're looking at the same gap of achievement gap, that children in Ward 7 have a 60% less achievement gap, a larger gap than children, their counterparts in Ward 3. That is to say that if a kid gets 100 points in Ward 3, then they're getting 40 points on the same test in Ward 7. How can we not be in a crisis mode and doing everything we can to deal with that? Why aren't we doing more in healthcare? It's abysmal. Why aren't we partnering with Howard University, but we're on the take with some of the major health providers that have contracts? I want to raise the question, are you really concerned about what's happening, or are you doing business as usual?
Anyone else want to ask a question of another candidate?
Absolutely. I'd like to address my question to the same candidate that Reverend Bennett mentioned, except like anyone through technology, I believe I can ask the candidate this question that's not here. Anyone from Ward 7 that actually has a Twitter account and you have the handle of our council member, would you ask them for me, where are you? Where have you been for 5 years? And where in the world you think you're taking us when you won't show up to something that gives the voters an opportunity to see what direction you're taking us? Can you tweet that out from Tom Brown? Through technology, she'll get it.
Any other takers?
Well, I guess y'all beating up on Mr. Beck. I have some questions I like, and which I asked her just Saturday. She has her poster stating that she's done certain accomplishments in Ward 7. And the question I asked, when was she elected? And she said she was elected in 2007. I said, but the Deanwood Recreation and also the Benton Road Library had already been in progress as ANC commissioner. And so she's taking credit for something that she didn't do. So that's being misleading and not being truthful. So when you, Ward 7, so I'm saying if she's doing this type of advertising is untruthful, so how can we expect for her to be fair when she be re-elected? So then, you know, my granddaughter say, well, Grandma, she's just not telling the truth. She didn't do the Benton Road Library, and she didn't do that, and she's 8. So if kids can absorb this and see this, then so they can also understand what's going on too. So I think, you know, as good leaders, we're supposed to set an example for our young people. If we set an example now as we speak, how untruthful we are, then how do we expect the future of our kids to be the leaders that we expect them to be and achieve their goals? Thank you.
Okay, I think we've actually used up our allocated time, and I want to congratulate all of you for your performances. Oh, I'm sorry, Monica.
The only question I was going to ask is, where do all of the where do the candidates really live? Where do they lay their heads at night? That's the only question I have.
I laid my head at 4401 Minnesota Avenue Northeast since 1978, and I'm a native Washingtonian, so I just want to let you know that with my family.
I lay mine at 4401 Sheriff Road Northeast, apartment number 1, but I think the issue is not as much where we lay our heads as what we're doing where we are.
3720 Suitland Road, Southeast.
409 36th Street Northeast, River Terrace.
Okay,
Thank you
that
all so
concludes
much.
the candidate